Hello guys, welcome back to another cinematic mic review. Today I'm going to review the Daniel Kwan, Daniel Steiner, Everything Everywhere All at Once film starring Michelle Yeoh. Michelle Yeoh is an actress who is known from Hong Kong cinema. She was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and the previous Marvel film, I think also Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I haven't seen most of her work. I've probably seen probably like those two or probably like one or two more. I don't think I've seen like a big time of her filmography. I do know who she is. I know she's famous. I know she's Michelle Yeoh. I know that. But I'm not sure if I've seen like a lot of her films and all that. But I'm glad that I saw this one with her. So right here in Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's a story about Michelle Yeoh's character Evelyn, who is a mother, wife. She owns a laundromat and she has to pay her taxes. She has to report to the IRS. Everything's getting chaotic in her life right now in this moment, and all of a sudden some crazy stuff start happening in her life where like the body of her husband gets taken over by some other person that was him in another universe and is trying to warn her about something bad that's going to happen, and she's like the only hope that they have, and they're trying to protect her and they're trying to see how they can succeed in their mission, because there's things going on in these different universes that she could jump into, and it gets all chaotic, but that's what it's about, of like this whole just being this random person in this troubled life, and then this like sci-fi type of stuff, crazy thing just starts happening, of like an almost an adventure type of thing, of jumping into different universes and all that, kind of like the Marvel movies and all that. So yeah, it's like that. It has a actual theme to it. It has a really cool little story to it, a theme and like a message in there, and it's something that I did like about the film. This movie was actually being pitched as the best multiverse movie out there, better than a Marvel movie. They're kind of just trying to throw little shots at Marvel, which is cool with me because, yeah, my take on Marvel. So yeah, and so that's the way they were kind of promoting this type of film. I actually didn't see much promotion for this film. You know how I heard about this film is because I kept seeing things about Michelle Yeoh, like interviews with her, and it was coming up on my feed, like Michelle Yeoh's talking about this, she's talking about that. I was like, what movie are they talking about? I'm like, is it a movie that already came out last year? Is it a movie that's gonna come out, or what? Or is she co-starring in some film, or is it a show? And so I didn't know much about it. That's kind of how I was getting, kind of like it was getting my attention and popping up on my feed and all that. And I still don't know how I saw it. I don't even think I saw the trailer. I think I barely saw the trailer like a few days ago. But I did see it like in the film. I saw some posters and all that, the whole talk. And I'm not sure how I wanted to go see it. I'm not sure it was because of all this buzz, these articles that were popping up. I'm like, I kind of want to see it. And then I think it popped up on I always do this thing where I look at the movies that are coming out this year and during the month. So I look at the 2022 in film. And so I saw that it was coming out and I wanted to watch it. The thing is, it came out last weekend, I think, where I saw Sonic and I saw Ambulance. And this one was one of the ones that was coming out too that weekend, but I couldn't watch it because I can't make it a three. Like, it's hard to do two movies in a weekend for me. I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not gonna go for three. It's the one that I left out because I wanted to check out Sonic and I wanted to see Ambulance, so I left that one out. But you know what? This past week from there, I was kind of like getting over it already because it's being like way overhyped. A lot of people are like talking about how it's like Oscar worthy type of film. I don't know. I think it's just like big time overhyped, to be honest. And it kind of killed it for me because I'm like, yeah, I don't think I want to watch it, because usually when that happens, I'm like kind of disappointed because I kind of get upset too, because I'm like, these people are actually sound like it's really legit. And I go watch it and then I'm like, damn. But I don't know. Maybe I do the same with other films, like the way I'm doing with Ambulance. Maybe someone will be like, I'm overhyping it. And yeah. So I did, I was kind of thinking about it this week, and then yesterday I was actually I had some time and I was like, damn, should I watch a movie at home? Should I write? Should I go to the movie theater and catch up on that film? I wanted to watch Ambulance again, but I'm like, I don't know, I just saw it. So I was like, maybe I should watch something fresh. But this whole thing of like me kind of doubting like it being as great as people were talking about. The other thing is, when I looked at this film too, when I saw the trailer, I'm like, well, it's not really my kind of thing. I can tell already that this kind of type of style is not my thing. It's not bad. It's just not really my style, my taste. It's and all that. So I was like, I don't know if I should go and pay a ticket and watch this. But then, I was reading some articles, and then what got me? An article that by the end of the article says, if you're one of those people that is complaining about unoriginal films right now, then you definitely should go watch this film. I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? That's the answer. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go take off. So I took off right away after I saw that. Once I read that article, turned off the phone, I'm like, hey, I'm going to the movie theater. And I took off. And yeah, I saw it last night. And I do have to say that there is an issue with it, which kind of takes it away from me from being like the best movie ever, or like at least in my list and all that. I don't really do a listing, I guess, but like my personal taste and all that. There's something in here that I'm not a fan of. One, kind of comedy, I think, is my least favorite genre in film. I think that's my least favorite genre, is comedy. Like now, I guess like classic comedy is fine, but they kind of do that here a little bit. But comedy has always been kind of like, I never liked really like rom-coms that much, and then just comedy kind of is just comedy. The type of comedy that I do love is dark comedy, which is like Big Nothing or In Bruges, Seven Psychopaths, things like that. Probably I like that kind of comedy, that kind of dark, kind of gritty, this kind of like seriousness and then funny, like dark comedy. Right here, I don't know what kind of comedy it is, adventure comedy or action comedy. But yeah, that's the thing too, is that, but it's not even just that. I'm okay with all the other stuff. The thing is that there's a type of comedy in here that is not one that I'm fond of that are in movies. And I'm not really a big fan of these types. And I mean, I could accept it in some films that were probably like based off of like a movie that's set in like college, or a movie that's set still in high school. I could accept it there in a way, like a little bit. I can accept it there. But here it kind of threw me off because of what it's doing, the theme, the messages in a way. And I'm like, oh, really? I just can't stand it when it's way too much in your face, like I could accept like a little bit, like it's okay with me, but when it's like way too much there in your face, and I'm like, oh no, this is all right. Yeah, I see where you're going, but this already threw me off, and it's not the thing that I like. This is going to be kind of a little bit of a spoiler here. I guess spoilers, I guess. The thing that I don't like about it is there's a scene where there's a showdown, a fight, and then all of a sudden she gets some weapons, and they end up turning to be like these dildos. And I'm like, seriously, dildos? I'm like, at first I was like, okay, but then it goes on like if they just want to show the dildos in your face and all that, and the guy getting slapped in the face with these dildos. And I'm like, oh man. And I was like, damn, really? I was like, it's kind of cringy, I don't really dig that type of thing. There's this other thing where Michelle Yeoh ends up doing something, and she ends up putting her hand in the actor's mouth. She puts her hand in his mouth, and I'm like, well, is that just to like kind of just make it as gross as possible, or what? And then the other thing, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, who's also another great actress and actor in here, and she's part of the IRS. And she has these awards that are like best auditor or something like that. And they look like the shape of something like a dildo almost. And then there's a scene with these minions, which are part of the group of the villain, who's actually in the universe is actually her, Evelyn's daughter. And these minions are like the security guards and all that. And they have to like jump and like into this thing. And the thing has to get plugged into their butt. Which I'm like, really, seriously, we have to go there? And that's where it lost me. I'm like, really, I'm not into this type of thing, and I don't find this kind of funny. I just find it kind of stupid, and just, I don't know. I just don't like it, but it is stupid. That's what it's pitched as to. It's a stupid movie. It's absurd and all that. It's just not my thing. It's not a matter of personal taste, I guess, is why that part, that kind of took away a lot from me. So that's something I did not enjoy. Then there's another scene too where I think Evelyn learns to be kind, and she's trying to find something to calm these people down. She finds something that they like, and she ends up spanking some guy because I think that's what he likes or he wants, is to be spanked, because he's into this kind of sexual type of thing. So I was just like thrown off by that. I was like, oh no, I'm not into this type of comedy. I've seen it before, and I don't like it. It's not something where I'm like, dude, these movies should not exist. These type of comedy shouldn't exist. It's nothing like that. I know it has its fan base and all that. It has people that are actually into this type of joke. It reminds me of like the fart jokes too, which I think they did in Swiss Army Men. I don't remember if they did as much as people are saying now. I saw that movie a long time ago, but I think I remember liking that one. This one too, it's not bad. I didn't dislike this one like totally, but I didn't like that whole thing. Um, yeah, fart jokes. I'm not a fan of fart jokes either. I cringe at those type of things. But it works sometimes, I guess, because I've taken screenwriting classes, and sometimes some people that submitted like scripts that they wrote for our professors, even they would say like, "Oh, well, this is good that it works," and your joke, because they're trying to write a comedy and they put a fart joke, and for some reason it works at times. But me, I've always hated the fart jokes and this type of comedy too. So that's the part that throws me off a lot. But that's not to say that it's a bad movie. One of the reasons it's good is because of a lot of things it does with filmmaking and the acting and all that, the technical aspects, the production and all that. I do like one thing that I did love about this film is that I love the aspect ratio of the 239. I just read something where the reason I like this 239 is because it's really like wide, and it really seems like an experience that you should have at the cinema. And I remember there's this time where I felt like movies weren't doing this anymore, this type of, but then I don't know what movie it was that I saw, and I'm like, hey, I'm like, it's back. I'm like, I used to see these kind of films, people would use this type of thing when I was younger, and I would go to the movie theater. I'm like, and it's here. And I don't know what movie did it again for me, whether it was Good Time or another one, but yeah, they still do it. But there's a time where it wasn't as noticeable, or like it wasn't as impressive. But this is one of those movies that impresses with that, using that type of style, that type, the 239 right there. And then I just realized, I just found out that they were switching it up from 239 to 185, I think. The aspect ratio of the film, because they did it on purpose. It wasn't like a mistake or something like that. I think they did it on purpose. They were also doing things that were kind of being innovative, I guess, in a way, they're trying to mess around with the stuff, to try to be different and stand out, which is something I always respect. They did one for, like, I guess the real world where she's really from, Evelyn, and they did one for the actual place where all this adventure sci-fi stuff is going, the multiverse, all that stuff is going on. From what I remember, what I read, it had to do with a lot with that. The other thing I love is the way they frame Michelle Yeoh. Oh my gosh, the way they framed her is perfect. I love when she takes over the screen, man, and she does have that face of an actress, a lead actress and all. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just beautiful the way they frame her. I always love when it's on her, the camera's on her, and the way she fills up the screen, whether it's from the shoulder right here or more. And just everything that's in the frame is beautiful, and that's why I like that they put the 239 too, because it seems like they really cared about what's in the frame, and it's for a cinematic experience. Also, this is one of the reasons why I think it should be watched in the movie theater. It's reasons for this, and that's something that I loved about it. The other thing is the editing. The editing is freaking crazy in here, man. There's like some crazy editing where there are things where she's like has to jump like through like all these multiverse places, and it's just like shaking and shaking, and it's just crazy. The editing, it's kind of, I don't know, you might get a headache, or you might just be impressed, or you just might be tripping. There's a part where I'm not sure if it had to do with some of those scenes where I just sat back and I'm like, damn, I'm like, is this what it's like when you're on acid and all that? I'm like, I never been on acid, but I was like, this is what it must be like to be on acid. Even when I think I saw the trailer, I think I sent it to my friend, and he told me that, hey man, you think we should get high and go watch this movie? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm like, hey, maybe. But yeah, it's crazy what they did right there. The production thing, the production department is all great too. As I said, what's in the frame is great. The production, everything is beautiful. It's great in the frame. The production design, the costume design is great. The makeup artist is great. I was paying attention to these things, and I'm like, yeah, this is good. This is good. This is great. It has its own thing, kind of like funky type of style to it, that makes it stand out. But it's kind of, I've seen these movies before, this kind of style and all that. And it seems like it's something that my friends would enjoy a lot. The thing that I didn't like was what I said, is that kind of humor is not for me. I don't like that type of humor. And it throws off like some of the important parts of this film or what it's trying to say. It probably would have been better for me, and I would have probably appreciated it more if it was with that humor, and it might have been more to my liking than it is right now. I mean, right now I do like it. I do think it's fun. It's not a bad movie. I'm not gonna say that this movie is terrible. It's not horrible. It's not a bad movie. It's just kind of like I expected more from it. People were saying that I was gonna cry, and I didn't really cry. There were some movies like I mean, there were some moments where I did feel like, yes, they were kind of emotional and they really got me, but I don't think I got to the point where people were making it seem like, oh, you'll cry at the end and this and that. And I was like, yeah, I didn't come out crying from this film. Maybe you guys did, but I didn't. Maybe it's more personal to them. There are moments, the moments that are kind of that are emotional because some of them were personal to me, but not as much, I guess, as some other people experienced it. And it's one of the things that I loved in the storytelling of this. Like, there's a there was a scene in the beginning that I can't remember, but I wanted to talk about some scene in the beginning. Anyways, but there's that one like towards the end or middle end where I think Wang, played by Ki Hugh, who is from just read something that he's the guy from the Goonies. Ki Hugh is saying something to Evelyn. This is when they're in the universe where they're celebrities, and he says something to her like, "I would rather do laundry and taxes with you," like basically saying, "I would rather be in that universe than be here." And it seems like everyone in every other universe wants to be in the other universe than the one that they're in, and I can kind of relate. I think all of us could, where we're like, damn, I wish I was there. I wish I had this. I wish I had that. But maybe someone wishes they had what I have. There's that whole saying like, don't you know that someone, you complain about this and that, but think about the person that would want to have your life. Maybe someone wants your life and all that. So you think about things like that and all that type. And, he says, I would rather be there with you and all that. And it's just about also moments in our life too. And I don't know why, but it reminded me of the thing when someone tells me what's a moment you would go back to in your life. And there's always this one moment that I would go back to because it meant a lot to me, and it was a moment where I was as happiest as I can be. And it was just a moment, and I didn't get anything. There is something I experienced, but it wasn't like someone bought me something. I mean, I did pay for something, but it was more of the moment that I was in my life at that time that was so special about it, and then it makes me think of the things that I say kind of now also with my health issues. I always talk about and I always bring up like Watchmen, where they say that whole saying of like, the future keeps getting grimier, but the past keeps getting a little bit brighter. And me, I'm always like thinking about things like, my health issues seems like it's worse in this moment, but then the next year something even worse happens where it makes me say, oh damn, I wish I was back to the other one. I think I was much better over there and all that. So I think it has to do a lot with some things like this that we complain about life and all that, but it's no matter what, it's all gonna happen. Then there's another part where also this guy, Hugh, dude, this actor from the Goonies, dude, I felt for him. I think he did a great job in acting. His character was great also, and I just felt for his character a lot, and especially the way he speaks, the way he seems like kind of heartbroken in a way, sad and all that, and you really feel for him and his character. And I really felt for him. He was like one of the interesting characters also in the film that I loved. And there's a moment where I think Evelyn is fighting the minions that are of her daughter and all that. And she wants to keep fighting them because she feels that's the only way. And she feels like she can't stop because I think it's saying like, oh, she's weak. But then he comes and says something. I know that you feel like you have to be a fighter or something like that. And that kind of threw me back and reminded me of the memes that we have all in social media where we always say like, I'm a fighter, all these inspirational quotes and all that. Things I put up in social media also. I'm not sure if I have put any up lately. But also even just reminds me of me when, things that I think of. I actually have this thing where, and I notice it myself, where I feel like I block things off on purpose because of what I feel like might come with that if I open a door and let that in. So it kind of reminded me of that right when that scene happened, and when he said it, I don't know, it just hit me really hard, and I'm like, damn. And it made me think about myself. I'm like, hey, that's kind of what I think about sometimes about myself, is the whole thing of being like a fight, that whole thing where we feel like we have to be defensive, or we have to have this attitude that we've been through enough and we have to like just fight through it and be strong. And maybe we can't let ourselves look weak. We gotta speak up for ourselves and stand up for ourselves. But this guy says that whole thing, I do it with kindness. That's how I do it. It's another option. You could do it that way, but here's another option. It might be a better option too. Goes back to this, I think, the saying, killing with kindness and all that. So the story is good right there, and it also has its mother and daughter relationship things that I can't really speak of much because I don't think I'm not sure if I could put that with myself, but I could see how it works, and it was kind of dramatic and all that. Not in a bad way. I don't mean like draw over, but it was good for drama and all that. And it seems like a lot of people connected with that part, which was great. And that's what I loved about this film. That at least it used this whole like sci-fi thing, multiverse thing, and actually threw something in there, a theme, message, and all that. And I loved it. I got emotional a little bit, but not like as big time as people were making it seem like you're gonna bawl your eyes out when you get out of here. I was like, okay, yeah. But it did get emotional. Like there's parts where it was getting emotional. I was getting really hooked into it, and people were just laughing, and I'm like, and I was just like the only person that was actually kind of. Those are the parts that were getting me interested, and I was getting really hooked into it more, in the emotional part of it. But people were just laughing. I know there were some parts that parts, yeah, they were still funny, and they should have laughed. But there were parts where I'm like, are they just laughing because they just think everything here is funny and that's it? Like, so I was just kind of a little bit confused there, but I don't know, maybe it was funny and maybe I was just taking it way too serious in those moments, but I just loved it. But I was like, I just didn't know what was funny in that scene. I'm like, yeah, what's funny? I'm like, this is actually an emotional moment between them. And so that's what I was saying. Um, but yeah, the story, those things are great. So there are a lot of things that I could connect with in those things. The other thing, character, like I gotta talk about character. Evelyn's character, she's owns a laundromat. She has to pay her taxes. She has to go to the IRS. There's a saying in screenwriting and all that: make your character suffer. It's the way you'll make them more interesting. And when she's going through this, at the same time, a divorce paper comes, and you're like, damn. And then the thing is that she didn't know at the beginning and all that. So it's crazy that she has like this whole thing. Then the situation that she's having with her daughter, this like kind of conflict relationship with her daughter, because she doesn't want to, like, she's still kind of like hiding who her daughter really is and all that from her grandfather. So it's just a lot of complication right there, and I think that's what makes it interesting and emotional too, and it works. So that's something that I do appreciate about the film. With that being said, I do feel like this film is actually one that you should watch in the movie theater. It's one made for the movie theaters. Like I talked about the aspect ratio, I talked about the framing, I talked about the production. This is all things that matter in film, and these are reasons why you should go watch this. I've seen people saying like why it's messed up that you guys aren't putting it in streaming. I think it's messed up that people aren't going to watch this at the movie theater. Because I think this is the way the directors who are actually making something like this for people out there I think it's the way they want it to be watched. I think that's why they made those decisions to make the aspect ratio that way, to frame it the way it is and all that. It's a film to be watched in the movie theater, and that's the part that I respect a lot. And I'm glad that in a way that although it wasn't my taste, I'm glad I at least paid for one ticket for that film, and it's not completely where I'm like, damn, this was total waste of my money, but I think that's the way their intentions was, for it to be watched at the movie theater, the way any movie probably should be watched at the movie theater. So I think they did a good job on that. I will say that it's just a matter of personal taste. And then, yes, there is that whole thing where, is it really that great to me? It's not that big to me. As I said, I didn't cry. I did like the themes, the messages. There were some parts impressive. Oh yeah, I gotta mention one thing: the rocks. There's a scene here. I love the storytelling and I love it visually too. There's like an impressive scene here with rocks, on a cliff, and I love this scene so much. I mean, people were laughing, but I was really captivated by what they did here. With, I don't know why. It was just because it was two rocks, and I'm like, damn, these guys actually did it with rocks, and I'm like, wow, this is like one of the most beautiful scenes in the film. It's one of my most favorite scenes in the film is the rocks. Like some other parts, they take it away from this type of stuff, but this whole thing with the rocks was really beautiful. People were kind of laughing. This is another part where people were just laughing. Yes, it is funny. Yeah, I can see that it's funny, but I don't know. It's just the difference between people just like, ha ha ha, ha, and me like kind of just being in awe about it. Like, whoa. And it was just cool. But I love that scene with the rocks, what they did here visually too. It's nice with the storytelling. Back to the whole thing. So yeah, I don't think it's a movie for everybody. It wasn't big time for me. I am glad I watched it in the movie theater, but it's not one that I told you guys that when I watch a movie, I actually wanted to make me want to buy the DVD, the Blu-ray at the end. This is definitely one that I'm not gonna buy. And again, it's not only that, it's not a bad movie. As I said, it's its own thing, and it has its fan base and all that. People are like hyping it up. It's a movie that's out there. It's not one of those movies where I'm like, I'm tired of these movies. I don't like these movies. It's not this. I'm okay with it. It's just, again, taste. That's it. But then again, it's one of those movies that is Oscar worthy, that people are saying is Oscar worthy. I mean, it ain't big to me. I guess, yeah, I could say, yeah, it should probably get some Oscar. But the thing that I was gonna say is, like, I think I said this in other videos where I know another video where I used to watch the Oscars a lot. Recently, I have my own issues with the Oscars, and then again, there's the other part of me that's going in a different way now of my views on the Oscars too. But there's this thing where I used to do where I noticed that I would watch Oscar worthy movies. I would pay the ticket, and it's because I wanted to watch them, and I thought I should watch them. And when I saw them in the theater, I do love them. I thought they were beautiful. And I did think they should win Oscars. I did think they're movies that are should win Oscars, but the Oscar worthy movies were movies that I noticed that I wasn't buying on DVD or Blu-ray. And I think that had to do with my thought that I feel like Oscar worthy movies, sometimes some of them are like ones that I feel like it's worth watching once in the theater, because you can't get that feeling again when you buy it and go put it on the DVD. Maybe for some people, but for me, I can't. There are some that I could, and some that but the ones that I could is because I guess I mostly been a fan of that director a lot, that I like his style and all that, and just, it was cool that I guess in that moment his or her movie got an Oscar nominated. It was an Oscar worthy type of movie. So there's that thing, but I'm not one of those people. Like, a lot of my collection, my taste is not really like Oscar worthy movies, but I'm not like some other people that start, what, my favorite movie should win Oscar because it was my favorite movie and this and that. I'm not one of those people that does it. I know there might be like a whole bunch of movies that I thought were good to me, and maybe some Oscar worthy movies that were good also, but they weren't my taste. But I understand that those movies should get the Oscar than the ones that I picked, or maybe there is a moment sometimes, there is sometimes where a movie that I actually really liked is nominated for Oscar, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. It's up there. So there's that. That's how this feels. This feels like that. It feels like one of those Oscar worthy movies, but not one that I'm gonna see again. Not one that I'm gonna buy on Blu-ray. But I do think it should get recognized and should get some kind of awards, at least for original screenplay. Or the ones that I'm thinking of is original screenplay and editing are probably like the big ones that I think of so far. Those are the only two that I can think of. I know a lot of people know, oh man, maybe Michelle Yeoh too as actress, best actor or best actress. So that'll be great too. I mean, even the husband could be supporting. I really love the husband in this film. I felt for that guy, man, a lot. He was really like, it was just, I don't know how to say the word, but it was just nice, touching and all that. So there's that whole thing on there. I do have to say that I do love that in this time, this age, that the Daniels are actually like standing out on their own. They're actually standing out, and that's something that I loved about this film. Although, you know what this film reminds me of? I said this in the Nick Cage video that I did, and I think I mentioned about how Anthony Mackie brought this up, and there's a clip on YouTube that he said this before too, where it doesn't feel like this is the whole where people say, oh, we're gonna go watch that Superman movie, that Batman movie, that Jurassic Park movie, that Fast and Furious movie. Back then it used to be about the directors, the actors. It was that director's movie, that actor's movie. So right here, this makes me feel like that's coming back in a way. It feels like that, and that's kind of something that makes me happy and a little bit hopeful, is that it feels like, okay, that's the Daniels movie. That's the Michelle Yeoh movie. That's it right there. It's not like a brand, like a franchise name under like Marvel, DC, Jurassic Park, Batman, Superman, and all that. Like, you know what I mean? It's actually their movie, and I think that's beautiful that it stands out. And I'm thinking about it right now, I'm like, this is kind of like an indie movie, and I'm like, damn, I'm like, seriously, I'm like, I hope these movies still stay here, because they should. And I don't want to see like the indie movies disappear and go away the way some movies are kind of like not here anymore in a way. So I'm hoping that we still get things like this, and the indie movies don't go away from the movie theater. I'm glad that it's like, so there's that respect that they're standing out, and I'm happy for them. I'm happy that this is kind of what movie making and storytelling should be, things like this, being creative and all that. Even though it's not my taste, you know, you gotta still kind of acknowledge what they're doing and all that. And it's impressive. So yeah, that's what I think about the film right there. So I'm happy about that. I still got a few films to watch. Like, dude, that this year has been, the beginning of this year has actually kind of been impressive, and I'm really glad with what I got for like the start of the year, which is, we're almost getting to the mid. I think I got like 2 or 3 more films this week to watch, and then I think it'll fill up the whole beginning of the year. And then I think I saw that in the mid, there's only like 3 movies that I want to watch, and then a few at the end of the year. I don't think it's as much anymore, but I'm glad that the year kind of started with this whole thing right here. It's really impressive, and I'm hoping we get another year where it's like this or even better than this. Like I said, I got a few films to watch this week that are coming out. I think that's gonna conclude the beginning of 2022. So yeah, guys, I think that's all I have to say for the Daniels Everything Everywhere All at Once film. If you guys enjoyed my video, please hit that like button and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.